There's a lot of annoying trolls on BitChute who go around saying that Hitler is actually a Zionist and is pro-Jewish because of the Haavara Agreement. What was the Haavara Agreement? In 1933, Nazi Germany made a deal with the British Empire to transport 60,000 Jews from Germany to Palestine. Palestine at the time was a British colony. So the NS camps were holding Jews so that they could be transported out of Europe. And in the Haavara Agreement, the Jews were transported to Palestine, 60,000 Jews. In 1931, the Jewish population in Palestine was around 174,000. After the full project of the Haavara Agreement was completed, in 1936 the Jewish population in Palestine was around 384,000. Today, the hyper-Zionist, war criminal Israeli state is not only stealing all of the Palestinian land, but Israel is also constantly murdering Palestinian citizens. Now, first of all, in 1920, the British Empire enacted the Mandate for Palestine. This was a large amount of Jews immigrating into what was at the time Palestine. The Mandate for Palestine also forced Palestinian Arabs to comply with these plans. So before these trolls continue on with their ramble, Hitler is the reason Palestinians are oppressed. Hitler created Israel. Let me stop you there. No, the hyper-Zionist British Empire created Israel. Without the British Empire's mandate for Palestine, there would have never been an Israel to begin with, and the Jews would still not have their own state, but would rather be parasitically living in Goyim nations without a state of their own. Here's something I bet you didn't know. The original plan of the Waffen-SS was to deport every Jew in the world into Madagascar. Yes, the original plan was to send all Jews to Madagascar. Don't believe me? Let's start with Paul Anton de Lagarde. This was a German pagan living during the late 1800s. He was very opposed to Christianity and was very opposed to Jews. In 1878, Paul Anton had written about the Madagascar Plan. Paul Anton, he hated that Jews parasitically leached off of the European Gentile nations. He recognized the British Empire for being a Jewish capitalist shithole of scum, aka the East India Trading Company working with international Jews to spread world Jewry. So he wanted all the Jews to be deported into Madagascar, but that's not all. Once the Jews are deported there, they would be living under a German Empire puppet state. The Jews must abide by the laws of the puppet state, otherwise the Jews are going to misbehave like they do today, and they drag white men into these Zog wars that we have nothing to do with, and white men end up dying for the Jews in these Zog wars. So Paul Anton wrote about this in 1878, and he spoke about this, the Madagascar Plan, to move every Jew in the world into Madagascar, and to heavily surveillance the Jews under a puppet state until later plans are conducted. The Waffen-SS, Heinrich Himmler, the Thule Society, they all were following this original plan, the Madagascar Plan. You can just Google it, the Madagascar Plan. So when the National Socialist regime got into power, why didn't they fall through with their original plan? Why didn't they use Madagascar for the Jewish puppet state, and instead they ended up resorting to just sending German Jews into Palestine? Well, the Nazis tried very hard to send the Jews to Madagascar and create this puppet state. But the problem is that Madagascar was a French colony at the time, and the French Empire was not cooperating with the NS. Even after the NS had defeated the French were still being very difficult to cooperate with. The greedy French Empire was simply not allowing Germany to enact the Madagascar Plan. Ever since the 1920s, the NS and the Waffen-SS was trying to complete the Madagascar Plan, but the French Empire was being a pain. So the NS set up all these transit camps, and all these Jews are sitting in these camps, but they're not going anywhere because France is not allowing the Germans to send them to Madagascar. Eventually, the Germans had to make a choice. We either stop the deportation operation and let the Jews continue to linger in Germany and infest us, or we could resort to sending them to Palestine. Palestine was the only place that Germany could cooperate with because at the time it was a British colony and the British had still enacted the Mandate for Palestine, which was the British Empire's mandate that Palestinian Arabs must comply with mass Jewish immigration into their lands. So yes, today Israelis are still stealing away Palestinian land and are oppressing the Palestinian people. And yes, it's true, NS Germany had to resort to working with Britain's mandate for Palestine, but you must remember why. These Jews in the NS camps were originally sitting in those camps waiting to be deported to Madagascar under the Madagascar Plan. When that plan failed, thanks to the French, now the NS had to resort to sending all the Jews to the only place that will accept them, and that is British-occupied Palestine under the Mandate for Palestine. This is why the Haavara Agreement happened. So before you go around saying stupid shit like, Hitler created Israel, Hitler is the biggest Zionist in the world. No, the British Empire was the Zionist Empire. The British spread international Jewry with Jewish capitalism, working with the Sassoon family, the Rothschilds. All the Jewish elites were thriving through the British Empire. Britain and France are the ones who created Israel. Israel was already created under the British Empire's Mandate for Palestine enacted in 1920. The NS simply had nowhere else to send the Jews because the original plan was delayed. Madagascar is a perfect puppet state for the Jews because it's an island where they can't escape from, so they can't run off and camouflage into your Goyim nations anymore. Madagascar would have been easy to surveillance. So no, Hitler was not a Zionist. Today, through AIPAC, we give Israel all our money to fund their wars, and we do not surveillance the Jews surveillance us. When we do anything anti-Semitic, the Zionists are immediately trying to get us into legal trouble. The Nazis had the opposite plan. We are supposed to surveillance the Jews, not the Jews surveillancing us. The Jews were supposed to live under an NS puppet state. The USA right now is a puppet state of the Zionists, of the Jews, the opposite of what the Nazis wanted within the Madagascar Plan. Hitler would not have approved of any of the shit going on right now. He would not have approved of AIPAC. He would not have approved of the ADL harassing people who criticize Jews. No, Hitler, Himmler, the NS, they were anti-Zionists. The British Empire? Fuck the British Empire. The British were the Zionists. Also the French and the USA, they were the real Zionist Jewish supremacists. So get it fucking right.